In the past, we've been making platformer games in Gdevelop. We're going to go to the next level now and make physics games, which is a fun thing to do. Physics games are always fun. So what we're going to start by doing is kind of creating a sandbox game, because there's quite a few little wrinkles and things you need to get your head around with physics. So before we get too deep into game mechanics and so on, let's make sure we understand how physics work. A nice fun little environment, and then we can kind of throw that away and start again. So I'm going to make a new empty project. It's going to be a 2D empty project, so I'm going to call it 2D physics demo. All our games are going to be 2D, so we can't use 3D assets or anything like that. And while it's just setting that up, I just mentioned that we've made platformers before and physics, and you can make a physics platformer, but that's not what we're going to do. We will make everything physics, right? We don't mix platformer behaviors with physics behaviors. We tend to get it kind of works up to a point, and then it stops working well, and it's just an absolute pain to get working properly. So let's add some objects into this space. So we can go into these asset packs. Let's pick a free one. And what I'm going to use for the moment, again, for demonstration purposes, is there's these rolling ball assets. Just nice, simple, big assets that, this is just a learning experience. So I need these, which are going to be kind of bouncing around a little bit. And I think I was going to use this as well. So I've just added 3 things to the scene. I wonder if I should add one. No, that's fine. This large block square is going to be the floor. Then these are going to be just physics objects bouncing around, and this is going to be one that is a physics object bouncing around, but we're going to be able to drag it around. So this large block square, all the behaviors that we add, pretty much we're always just going to add a physics engine. So it's all just a straightforward physics engine, and then we have to configure it to behave in the way we want. This is going to be the floor, so I'll be like dragging it down here and using it as a floor like this. But with physics, everything's got gravity on. So if I just put this here, it will just fall straight out of the scene. And also, if another physics object hits it, it will move it. Things bounce off each other and move each other. So we're not going to do that. So what we have, when we come to a physics object, the first thing we configure is what type it is. So there's dynamic, kinematic, and static is what we're going to want. So I'm just going to drag this in, and it's a static physics object. I'm going to make it nice and wide. Okay, that's kind of the floor of my whole scene. Now I've got this large white hole, which is the thing that I'm going to be kind of bouncing around. And again, behaviors, going to make this a physics object. Easy as that. That should work just fine, and I can put one into the scene like that. And let's just hit preview. Let's see what that looks like. Won't be very exciting. It'll just be a big circle that drops down, not gripping. And it kind of dropped down and stuck to the bottom there. So we need a bit more configuration to make it behave a bit more interestingly. So I'm going to go to Edit Shape and Advanced Settings on it. So the first thing to be aware of is that the physics collision mask is different. If I go into here, I've got this object here, and you'll be familiar with doing collision masks and modifying these. But these don't work in a physics environment. So what we actually have is this one is a square. I can show you. I don't think this works particularly well, but you can see when I bring this object in, it's a square. Okay, but the good news is we can change it to be a circle. Okay, so that should match up nicely. Also, we've got a bunch of configuration down here in terms of how it will behave. We've got quite a lot of different things in here, but I'm going to start with restitution, and restitution actually means bounciness. So if I make this a bit more bouncy, if I made it 1, it would be fully bouncy. It would always bounce back to the same height. I'm making it 0.5, so it bounces back to half the height in theory. Let's just see if that actually does what I think it will do. doesn't bounce as much as I thought it would. Maybe that's the friction. Let's go a bit higher, just to have fun. You do this a lot in physics, you know, kind of suck it and see configuration of things, just see how things feel. Is it better than it was before? Yeah, a bit more bouncy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. And then what I'm going to do is, this is my playable object, kind of. One way of doing a playable object. There's going to be lots of different things we do. And this is, again, going to be a physics object. We knew that. But I'm also going to add another behavior to it, which is to make it a draggable object. But be really aware. We've got draggable object here. But if I just search on draggable and see what other things are there, we've got draggable and draggable for physics objects. So there's quite a lot of physics specific behaviors. So this is going to make our big yellow blobby button thing draggable as a physics object. So let's just drag that into the scene. So and preview how that behaves. You'll notice I haven't made either of these static, so it'll just fall down to begin with and then bounce off there. But now I can pick this up and I can kind of whoa and oh well, whatever. Also, you'll notice with the draggable physics, it doesn't. What that means is that it behaves in a physicsy kind of way. So you see, as I drag, it's kind of lagging slightly behind my cursor, and you want that. You don't want. You want the physics engine to be doing everything. You don't want it to be that you are taking control. So, for instance, you may in the past have specified the position of an object in your event sheet. That's a bad thing to do in physics because things don't just teleport in real life, you know. Whee, that's kind of fun. They behave in a physicsy kind of way. So what we're always going to try and do when we move things around is either use something like a draggable behavior, or we're going to use forces. So we push something in a direction, or we bounce something off it, or whatever. We're always trying to use physics to make it really feel good. That's the bell. So let's just have just for fun, and to show you perhaps a couple of other things, I'm going to go into the event sheet and spawn a whole bunch of those things, and we'll just see what that looks like. So add action. I'm not even putting any condition on that, so it's just going to do it every single frame. I'm going to spawn the objects at a random X position, but always like right at the top, and that's going to happen 60 times per second. So we're going to have a whole lot of physics going on, as it were. Let's have a quick look. It's going to be a bit out of control, probably. Yeah. One thing to point out, you see what's going on here. Physics objects hate overlapping each other, and it causes all kinds of weird and unexpected pinginess and behavior. And you might have seen this in games yourself. You know, they're always trying to overlap each other, which is why you get these kind of really spoingy kind of behaviors going on over here. Let's just slow it down a bit. This is the last thing I'm going to add in here. And it brings up another thing. You know, we're going to do some slightly more advanced stuff as we go along. And you'll need to work some things out. Like this game at the moment, what I'd like to do is make it every 0.5 of a second, every half a second, it spawns a new one of these large white holes. That's not available by default. What we have to do, I had to look this up. That's the kind of thing I would expect you to do as well, is we need to find, there's a repeat every X seconds behavior. Did you see where I went to get it? You can always rewind and find it. It's under this little 3-bar hamburger menu under extensions, and we've got that in the menu now. So we can go to here, and under other conditions, this was not here before. I didn't show you, but take my word for it. And this is going to be the spawn timer, I guess. And we'll make it every 0.5 seconds it spawns one of those big white things. Let's go and have a look, see if that behaves as we expect. You can kind of make a game out of this. It wouldn't be a great game, to be honest, but where you've got to kind of perhaps knock these into the basket, like a basketball-y kind of game. Yeah, it's kind of fun to do. I think in the first place, the best thing to do is just to make some fun kind of sandboxy thing, and then just see if you can think of a game that you're going to make out of it. But I will give you some instructions on making a specific physics game in a future video or 2 video series.